monsters. Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken kingdom.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So I'm back to showing off more Summonsin, and Topwug opened my eyes to what could be possible. You know what, we've always been great friends. We didn't hang out a lot, but we hung out a bit, and I'm sorry to have implicated him at all in some sort of underage whale sex scandal. So, what was his big suggestion? It's basically to have Chain-lightning Sentry on the right skill and Shockwave on the left. And what that does for the build is it just makes it a lot more consistent. The gil is largely the same, although what's funny is that I actually did add a lot of IAS on my build because the assassins should get your IAS from your weapons. I also switched to burst of speed, which definitely applies. I'm not positive because it says suffixes of weapons on Amazon Basin goes to assassin attack speed, but if they're not getting all of the attack speed, which would be maxing them out and capping them at like 10 frames per second, they're at least gaining 2 frames off with just the burst of speed alone. So that is nice. So as you can see, it goes much, much smoother. You can also notice I just started at the boss, and that's because I'm going to be going through a couple of builds today. So let's talk about what is holding this build back. Oh, by the way, my Act 3 Merc also died a lot less having the Chain Lightning around. I just think having that the slightly more consistent damage was a big boon to him. And as you can see, I also didn't even max out my synergies, so if anybody's worried about playing this build without enough skill points, don't worry. Again, some of the extra hard points really don't matter because the Shadow Warriors are going to get a ton of skills. Oh, I also don't do any additional swapping, so I'm sure a lot of people would like that as well. This was one of the best maps I ran all day with this version of the build. Unfortunately, so far, it is not the best version of Summonsin. I think, to nobody's surprise, the best mapping build is going to be Mindblast, which is very unfortunate. And that brings me to what holds this build back. Mindblast has CC. This build does not. It just has the damage that, the Act 3 Merc and the Summonsins are doing. It doesn't cause enough stun on monsters to really matter. So I get hit, they get hit, we get put into hit recovery. As far as I know, there's no way to buff the FHR of your Shadow Warriors except for the gear that they roll naturally, which is unfortunate. It's also possible, by the way, they don't even have a hit recovery animation. They probably do, but I'm going to be looking at that when I do some bossing tomorrow. So, I also wanted to try Fire Blast, and I tried Fire Blast with Wake of Fire, same thing as before. This is honestly actually a better map for the build. Of course, I switched to Emilio to get the Infinity, don't mind the name up there. I also even try Wake of Inferno, and although this build is functional, and it's kind of cool that you can basically play Summonsin with very similar gear on 3 different setups, you just need to change your skills a little bit. It's just worse. Now, Wake of Fire is an incredibly good skill, so what is the problem? Well, I even tried running Wake of Fire only, and that does not work because basically they're going to cast 5 traps super quick, they're going to be stuck somewhere, they're not going to cast another one. And Fire Blast just isn't as good as Shockweb. I thought Fire Blast would be more competitive. It is not. Now, that's just an incredibly bad pack, so taking that much damage isn't surprising. But again, it's also partly the problem with not playing the Mind Blast variant is the hit recovery. So if you were playing this build on ladder, what I do believe would be interesting, and it would make the non-MB version better, is you could actually run some more hit recovery. I'm really not sure how much the rainbow facets are doing. So even if the Shadow Warrior, I'm sorry, even if the assassin herself just had higher hit recovery, I'm pretty sure the entire build would feel much more fluid. Now, as you can see, the boss was slower. This is the Mind Blast version. Again, the skills really aren't that interesting. It's just basically you're maxing out all the Mind Blast synergies. And the one big change I did make is I finally started to get Blade Shield. Now, I just got it because it's 3 points, and it actually does noticeable damage. Not much, but noticeable. So I would think it would make any version of the build better. That includes the Web Chain-lightning Sentry version. But the bigger deal is I'm not doing it yet, is you could run some Life Leech. So for instance, skill rings are good, right? Well, you can throw on BKs, but honestly, what would be best is a res ring that has Life Leech on it. That would just be incredible. And later on, I'm going to show a quick clip of me actually trying out double BKs, I believe, with 9% LL total. And you can see that it just makes the build, you don't need to just spam plots the entire time. And let's be honest, if you're playing a build that spams pots, it does get old. I've done it before. It's not like you can't do it, but I wouldn't call them popular builds. So there you go. If you're wondering about the clear speed differences between Mindblast and Shockweb, I would say Mindblast is easily 10% faster. And I think the biggest reason is just the fact that the damage happens right away. It stuns enemies. It even happens right away off screen. So for archers and things like that, if they happen to be targeting them, you're not going to be taking damage. And what's the last thing? I wouldn't call this a bad map for magic. Now, somebody might be unhappy with me saying that because there's magic immunes. But the reason I say it's not that bad is only one mob spawns with magic immune, and I can easily take out those skeleton archers with my Act 3 Merc. So I don't see them as much of a problem. Like, as you can see, the Act 3 Merc wasn't even stomped on a pack of archers back there, and they still died to some of his damage. He's honestly that good. It's almost like no one listens to me. But if you just put the Act 3 Merc, just the static shock that he has, plus Dual Dream if you want to, which is very, very good, he will kind of carry your build if you can just help him out a little bit and keep him from dying. I mean, we've seen builds basically prioritize Act 3 Merc before, whether it's Flux Paladin or Stormspire, Innos, Sork, etc. He's a very, very good mercenary. I'm still surprised people don't run him more often. It's basically always the same thing. He is a bit squishy, but if you can keep him alive, he is very, very good. So this is me just testing out Blade Shield with Life Leech, as I said, and you can just see it's a little more consistent. Now, this is a double aura stacked pack, so it's not surprising I took a little bit of damage at certain points, but honestly, I'm very surprised with how tanky this assassin is without having any gear specifically for survivability, other than the gear that's for the build, and putting on enough res to be capped for res. So if you just prioritized hit recovery, maybe a little more defense, maybe a little more PDR, a little bit of replenish life, I really think this build is so cool. Now, this is me doing Ubers for the first time in a while from game creation on my Shockweb Chain-lightning build. I am only going to be using Shockweb, obviously, going into Ubers. And it is going to obliterate them in a very comedic fashion. Now, as you can see, I'm trying to make sure I'm putting on a skill they can't use because all I want them to use is Shockweb. And this kind of gets me to the last point. Does the Chain-lightning Shockweb variant have a reason to exist? Yes. Just the fact that a lot of people like to make a build that can do anything in the game pretty well. I honestly think Summonsin is one of those builds out there, guys. I think you can get a Summonsin, get those 2 claws, you can do maps pretty well with Shockweb Chain-lightning, and then you can also literally obliterate Ubers. Now, this is mid-game gear, right? Because it's all, maybe not BIS, but it's very good gear in slot, just without corruptions. And I'm making a joke of Ubers, and I'm doing pretty good in maps. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to check it out with Rathma and Declone tomorrow. Obviously Tier 0 because it's beta and I can't do anything harder, but I'm pretty sure it's going to make an absolute joke of those as well. You can just look at Bale's life on this fight, and there he goes. He dies. And I was actually playing pretty defensively, and right now there's lower resist on my my Shadow Warriors, and I'm not going to play as defensively on Diablo, and he is going to die. There you go. All right, Skelly King out, guys. GG.
Come play with us, Daddy. Forever.